Prologue. Orissa stood in front of the full-length mirror, astonished by the sight of the woman that stood looking back at her. As she turned to check the back of her dress, she brushed her waist-length, flame-covered copper hair out of the way, casting shadows that resembled embers to cascade and flicker across the walls. The seamstress had done a wonderful job. The long flowing, sheer white gown was off the shoulder and opened down the middle of her back just enough, allowing the 2-inch wide strip of beautifully shimmering pearlescent scales to be seen by all. A slight smile crossed her lips as she shook her head, still not believing all her eyes took in. She hardly recognized herself. This woman that just a year ago was a pale, lanky 18-year-old girl. She had no idea that just under the surface of all she had ever known awaited a hidden world that held war, love, and her destiny. Orissa closed her eyes and took a deep, centering breath. A sudden knock at the door took her attention away from the mirror, and she turned just as it swung open. A very tall, dark-haired man walked in, gave her a cocky smile, and bowed. Raising just his eyes to hers, she saw the raw, overpowering look of love and pride cross his face. The feelings flowing through him, through their bond, were enough to make her skin feel like it was burning under his gaze. It was bringing on a whole other set of feelings. Nervousness was not one of them. "My lady," he said in a husky, low whisper. Feeling her passion for him starting to grow, he growled low in his throat, which made her shiver. "Are you ready?" he asked. His breath was warm, and his lips were soft against her skin. The sensation caused things to start tightening low in her belly. She took another deep, shivering breath. "I am," she replied, and quickly added, "in more ways than one." She flashed him a smile and a slight lift of one brow. He just shook his head and chuckled at the feeling of voracious lust coming off of her. Turning, Orissa took one last look in the mirror. "As ready as I'll ever be," she whispered to her still, strange reflection. She reached over, taking his hand, and together they walked through the doors before leaving her side to take his place a few feet behind her. The dark-haired man gave her a reassuring smile. Alone, Orissa walked forward to the edge of the precipice that was overlooking a vast sea of faces, some old, some new, but now all her people. Lowering her head, the thoughts and the anger of the memories of all they had been through and lost together in this past year started running through her blood. She let that burning grow within her until it could not be contained any longer. She raised her face to the starry sky, a single tear trailing down her cheek as she opened her mouth, releasing into the air what started as a low, mournful scream and ended as a loud and powerful roar. Flames erupted from her mouth, lighting up the night sky. In one quick movement she thrust her shoulders forward, and at that moment a large set of wings ripped from her back. There was shock and awe from the crowd below. The wings unfurled to reveal a set of giant dragon wings that matched the strip of pearlescent scales on her back perfectly. Her eyes now glowed a similar shade, with flickers of flame. She took a few more steps toward the edge. Drawing her sword, she thrust it into the air and yelled, declaring, "My people, my Aviairians!"